Listen, if you see me in the same shirt for the next 3 videos, don't say nothing. Mind your business. Mind your business. Because the only way we gonna make it, honey, is if your girl bulk films. So we finna do just that. And I ain't finna keep running up and down these stairs changing my t-shirt. I guess I could have brought something downstairs, but I ain't feel like it. Why this thing look a little lopsided? Why it look like that? Hey y'all, welcome back to the realm of Kidlit Comics, and we are here for our end of the year content. I'm only doing 2 videos. I didn't have it in me to do any more than that because listen, I read a lot this year, and coming up with a best of list was like, it was difficult. And I know I left some really good content out on that list, but we'll talk about that when that video comes out. Today we are here to talk about my worst / most disappointing reads of 2024. I know everybody doesn't like this content, but however, I'm here to say that sometimes when people describe books that didn't work for them, it may have some buzzwords that actually work for you as a reader, and sometimes these videos can be extremely validating. So if this is not your content, I'm sorry. But I do like to talk about things that didn't really work well for me throughout the year and how I'm hoping maybe for some of these, especially ones that were most disappointing, those are ones that I like to really kind of hone in on and talk about how I'm hoping to see improvements from future works from these authors. My personal opinions. Some of these books probably, are, I would say maybe about 2 or 3 of them are ones that have been their like faves. 2 more so on social media, 1 within the Kidlit arena, and unfortunately it just didn't work for me, and I do want to talk about it. I did talk about it before, but we're going to talk about it again. Alright, so we're going to dive in. I only chose 10. I'm going to be doing a worst of list for the adult books I read because it's a lot of those, but that's going to be Patreon exclusive content, and so I'm gonna leave that there. But I only picked 10. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first one that we have on our list is How to Catch a Mommysaurus. Now, I never really think that I'm gonna have picture books that are potentially going to be the worst books of the year. I never really think that. That's never something that crosses my mind. But because I read so many picture books last year, I probably read close anywhere to 400 to 500 picture books last year. It was probably half of my reading for last year, to be quite honest with you. I read quite a bit and probably will do about the same amount of damage this year. When you're reading that many picture books, you are bound to come across some that just do not work for you. And this is one that did not work for me, and I'm going to explain why this one didn't work for me, okay? This did not work for me because I feel like at this point, this specific brand, this How to Catch a blank, 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 whatever it is, has now slowly become a money grab. There was another one I think I read, maybe How to Catch a Unicorn. I didn't like that one either. And I've seen a lot of these books. Kids love them. If we're talking about someone that you're taking recommendations from, things that you want to purchase as gifts, purchase for your own selections or your own collections, I can't recommend this, y'all. It's gimmicky, it's poorly written, the art is very much so, and I don't have a problem with computer generated art, but this just was, it was a means to have a book out in enough time for Mother's Day to make money. That's all it was. And unfortunately, the quality was not there, and so I could not recommend that book to anyone whatsoever. There are some decent ones within the franchise itself, but this one was clearly, it felt rushed. It felt like we're doing this because we know that we can get some money out of it, and so we're gonna hurry up and push out the content. That's what it felt like. The second one that I have on my list is King Cheer. This is Arden High number 2. Okay, so the thing about this is that I read the first one last year, which was 12th Grade Night. All of these are supposed to be based off of Shakespeare's plays, right? And I think that was what made it really appealing. We're getting a young adult graphic novel. We're starting to get a lot more of those because the industry really wants to push out more young adult graphic novels, which I'm not mad at, but something that I am seeing an issue with is quality. So we're trying to push things out and the quality is not there. My biggest issue with 12th Night is that, or King Cheer, sorry, is it's supposed to be a reimagining of King Lear, and it focuses on a main character who decides to forego being the cheer team captain because she gets waitlisted by the only university that she applied to, right? And then there's a set of twins that take her position and cause a lot of chaos just while things are happening with them. It was chaotic outside of the twins. The graphic novel itself was chaotic. It was underdeveloped. My biggest issue that I had with the first volume in the series was that the world building was not good. I'm a huge stickler for world building when it comes to fantasy. I am not a hardcore fantasy reader like some of my SFF counterparts, but when I read it, I need the world building to be up to par. I still could not tell whether this was supposed to be a magical world or not, because we have Fae who are in the high school, but they're not really relevant to anything. There was an opportunity in both of these to make a more defined world so we understand whether this is a fantastical world or not. I thought that the character development was not great. They were not fleshed out. I felt like the resolutions were oversimplified, especially for some of the stuff that the twins had been doing. This was a huge disappointment for me because I feel like I gave 12th Grade Night 3.5 stars, and so I was hoping to see some improvement with the second installment, and unfortunately I didn't get that. This is great artwork. It has great representation in it, but the story itself is where it's lacking, and unfortunately I can't look over that for great artwork and great representation. That's not going to work for me. The next one that I have, I'm not going to talk so much about because we have an entire live show dedicated to the series, and that is the Clementine series, which we had picked for our comic book club last year. I had ended up doing a reading vlog where I read a lot of the Walking Dead series because we were reading I think 10 years of the Goodreads Choice Awards, and in order for me to read the nominee of one of the particular years, I had to read a lot of back volumes of The Walking Dead. Clementine is kind of like a spin-off out of that world, and Clementine had a video game to my knowledge. I'm not a gamer, I don't know all the particulars, but from what I had been told, her story was wrapped up neatly. It was fine, per what we were seeing in the video game. So Tilly Walden was brought on to do this Clementine story, and it was atrocious, okay? It was horrible. I felt like we were putting characters through hell for the sake of putting characters through hell. It's some of the twists and turns and the trauma that we put Clementine through did not feel necessary. It felt like this was being done just to do it, and I don't like that. I don't like destroying characters for the sake of destroying them for advancement of plot. That is another way to get on my bad side as a reviewer and reader, is that you are doing things to your characters for the sake of it, to move your plot forward, and there's no relevance to it. You're just being cruel for no reason. There's no justification behind it whatsoever. But I will link that live show in the card symbol above if you would like to check it out. But we, as a collective who read those, we did not like them. So when the whole crew is like, it didn't work, you know it wasn't good. So another one that I think is actually a picture book that's highly regarded, which is very strange to me, because I did not like it. It's Pasta, Lots of Pasta. I was interested in it for the sake of the fact that, like, okay, I love foodie-based picture books. I love foodie-based picture books because they really do introduce children to a lot of foods that may be out of their typical cultural experience. And while we interact with pasta, I think a lot, especially like in my household here in America, it's something that we are accustomed, you know, when you have things like macaroni and salad, macaroni and cheese, spaghetti, like lasagna, like we eat a lot of pasta based things here in the States, right? But I think understanding the different types of pasta is what I was like, oh, this is going to be fascinating. I'm going to really like this. I didn't like the artwork. The artwork I did not like the art style in this. I was not a fan of the art style, which for some picture books, it's kind of like, sometimes I can get adjusted to an artist, like their style, and it may just take me a little bit of time. But this one, I didn't like the artwork, and then I felt like the rhyming scheme in this was forced. That's another pet peeve. I feel like we're covering all my pet peeves in reading, which maybe I should do a video about that. I don't like when we have picture books that feel like, one, they must be rhyming. There's nothing wrong with having a picture book in which you have rhyming schemes, because rhyming is very important developmentally for children. It helps them be able to make connections with words, and it helps with literacy. My kiddo is going through that phase right now where she is able to read some things that maybe she wouldn't necessarily recognize, because she is recognizing that rhyming scheme and is able to kind of make that connection. So it's not to say that picture books shouldn't rhyme, but I don't like when we get into this headspace where all picture books have to rhyme and then we force it until the rhyming scheme doesn't really make sense. This is one of those. It was so forced, y'all. I was like, yikes, this is not yeah, this is not working for me. I didn't enjoy this one at all. Okay, so the next thing I picked up was for 30 and 30. It was for the September round of 30 and 30. And I picked up Mysterious Disappearances Volume 1. Now, this one I had randomly seen at the library. I didn't know much about it. So the story itself is focusing on a woman who was a successful writer when she was younger, and so now she's trying to I guess in a lot of ways regain that popularity that she had when she was younger. But writing at that age and what people would expect of you at that age is going to be so different from what they would expect of you as an adult. And so she's struggling with wanting to write this book, but then some weird, strange, occult things start happening in the city that she lives in. She's working at this bookstore, and the guy that she works with also has some secrets. It's kind of like some urban legend, folklore type things going on, which I found to be fascinating. But let me tell you, clumsy writing. Very, very clumsy writing, which I don't know. With manga, sometimes it's hard to tell if it is in fact the writing or if it's a translation issue. So this may have been a translation issue, but the writing was not good. There was a lack of plot development. There was so much emphasis on sexual content. Y'all know me. I read everything. I read it all. But this felt weird to me in the sense that, what was the purpose? There were scenes of her that were, I think, more fan servicey than what I wanted and held no connection to the story. I expect, like, in ways that certain manga are written, I can expect that fan service and it doesn't shock me. But this one, I'm like, what was the purpose of that? Like, there were shots of her and situations where I was like, but why? Like, how is this relevant to anything? The characters are not likable. It didn't have a strong foundation to continue a story that I would have even been remotely interested in checking out. But I think I was even surprised by the rating on this one, because I feel like this had a T on it. I could be wrong, but in my review I had noted, like, I didn't feel like this was a good selection for a middle or high school audience. And that's a lot coming from me, okay? Like, that's a lot coming from me. But I don't think I agreed with the rating that was on, like, the rating that the publisher gave this. I don't think I agreed with the rating on it. I highly doubt I'll be continuing this series at all. It was a one-off type of situation because of 30 and 30. I don't have any need or desire to dive back into this, to be quite honest. The next one is going to hurt some people's feelings. I'm super glad I actually did not buy this book because I love the first book in the series, read the second one, and I'm kind of spoiling a little bit of my vlog for the Goodreads Choice Awards. But to be fair, y'all, that vlog is taking me so long because there's so much content. It may not come out till February. I wanted to come out by the end of this month, but it may not drop till February. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about this one because it was a very disappointing read for me. And that is Ruthless, Vows by Rebecca Ross. I wanted to say Rebecca Yaros. and that's not her name. I don't know why Fourth Wing has been on my brain, because it don't have nothing to do with this video whatsoever, and I haven't read anything else in that series but Rebecca Ross's books. This is the second book in the Letters of Enchantment series. I believe that's the name of the series. I think I gave this like a 2.5, right? I was disappointed. There were so many things that I loved about the first book, including kind of like the romance between the two main characters, right? I love their interactions. I love the letter writing. I love the backdrop of, you know, what feels like a World War I, World War II-esque background. My biggest criticism of the first book was that we did not get enough world building in the back end. So we know that there were these two gods who were fighting with each other, and they were pulling humans to be on their sides. And we didn't know why that was happening, but it plays a big role in the relationship that our heroine has with her brother, as well as the relationship that she has with the hero. Y'all, I think that, I don't know if Rebecca had this book written prior to the criticisms that were coming out about book one, because a lot of people love book one, but that was kind of like a common denominator, was that I wish there was more world building. I wish we had a little bit more world building. Book two went too far into world building, and so far into world building that it neglected the relationship between our two main characters. I'm trying to figure out how to talk about this without spoiling. There's interactions, there's reasons why they're separated. I don't think that's too big for a spoiler. They're separated. And so there's things that's happening that causes this distance. However, the magic that was in the relationship before was not there. This book felt very dry and tedious and boring. And even when we got the world building, I still don't think Rebecca knew what to do with it. Because we have these mythological creatures, these beings, and even when she explained it, I was like, okay, yeah, but still, it is still not making a lot of sense when it's all said and done. And so I think we were getting a book that was good with vibes, which is a first for me because I'm typically not a vibe person. I think we were getting a book that was very good with vibes, but was not providing anything concrete for me to say that it was an enjoyable book. And it's super unfortunate because I was going into this one with high expectations and was really looking forward to it, but I do think that it turned into this historical piece that lost the magic that made it a standout novel when the series first began, right? I'm probably a very unpopular opinion on this because this did win the Goodreads Choice Awards for Young Adult Fantasy. But yeah, I'm sorry, friends. Like, it just didn't work for me. And I say all that to say that I still think that Rebecca Ross is a master writer. She's a very, very talented writer, and I would be interested in checking out more of her books down the line, but I would be a liar if I said that that was not a very, very disappointing read for me. The same can go for another YA book. I'm kind of hopping because my list is over here and I'm looking, but I'm gonna hop over into two more disappointing, and then we're gonna finish with two books I just straight didn't like. Another disappointing book, Such Charming Liars by Karen M. McManus. Like, Karen has been kind of like a staple YA mystery thriller writer for me, right? I've read everything that she's written. She puts out a new book at least once a year, and I typically get my hands on it. Not even typically, I do get my hands on it because I've read everything she's written. And it seems like, I don't know if it's a shift in her writing or if it's a shift in my engagement, but Such Charming Liars was just not what I thought it was going to be. I think the plot itself was kind of interesting. So it's supposed to be like this jewelry heist type of situation where the main character is with her mother. Her mother is a thief. And so she's doing her last job. The main character runs into her previous stepbrother. So her mother was with this guy. They separated, but he already had a son. So previous stepbrother. And they find themselves kind of caught up in this web of issues when somebody is murdered. I think what I liked about this one was the familial dynamics, right? I think that Kate has a loving parent that is also absent at the same time. And I think that that's a very interesting dynamic, that while you can love your kids, you can still be absent and neglectful unintentionally. And she kind of explores this contrast with Liam, who has a father that loves him but dislikes him. So his father likes to exploit with women for a living, and Liam has a problem with that and really pushes back against his dad when all that stuff happens. I think that those elements, like showing those child-parent relationship dynamics, was really unique, but she didn't push it through enough to allow it to really shine through. The book was really slow, y'all, and that's not typically what I expect from Karen McManus, and it's not typically what I expect from a young adult thriller or mystery. There were moments when I literally was absolutely dead bored with this book. I was just like slogging through. I was not interested. I didn't feel like I could root for anybody. It was a lot of stuck up, snobby, wealthy people, thieves. It was just like, who am I supposed to root for? Because I don't like anybody in this book. And so it wasn't the worst book that I've read from her, but it wasn't the best. And it was disappointing because I feel like I have not read a Karen McManus book that has been more than 3 stars or 3.5 stars in years. And it's getting to the point now where I'm actively getting frustrated, because I'm like, I expect more from you because I know what you can do as a writer, and I feel like I'm just not getting it. So this is kind of like a personal issue in the sense that this is an author that I'm very familiar with, and like my expectations are not being met. So that's where the disappointment kind of comes in. And the last one that was disappointing for me was A Royal Conundrum, which is the first book in the Misfit series, which is ironic because the second book comes out this month. And it's by Lisa Yee, who I've read stuff by Lisa Yee and I've loved it. And so going into this one, middle grade mystery where it has a heist feel to it. These kids are sent to this school where they are trained to be spies. I almost said assassins. They're not trained to be assassins. They're trained to be spies, and it's a group of misfit kids. And that was the whole purpose of it, is that our main character, Olive, is sent to the school. She doesn't know why. Her parents are like super not engaged with her, and she's still grieving the loss of her grandmother. And so she's sent here, and she's like, I have no idea why I'm here. Doesn't really fit in, but ends up making a group of friends. And then these specific friends are chosen to be a part of this elite group of youth-based spies, espionage. And I'm like, yes. It was so slow. It was like a 200 and something odd page, 250 odd page book. It's middle grade. There's illustrations by Dan Santat, who I absolutely adore. And yet, I was like, what's going on? Like, what is the expectation here? I just felt like it was very contrived. Nothing happened in a way that felt like it was seamless, flowed naturally. Everything felt so forced. It was a lot of characters to keep up with. It was an interesting read to some degree, but once again, when you become familiar with an author's works, you come to expect certain things. You know how they can write, you know how they deal with character development, plot development, how they structure a story, their ability to really hone in on their storytelling skills. You become so familiar with that when you get a story and it's not up to the level that they usually commit to, you're kind of like, yeah, no, I know you could do better than this. So A Royal Conundrum was also another huge disappointment for me. All right, y'all, the last two, shocking. Last two. Go Ask Alice. I keep forgetting that I read this book in 2024 because I felt like I read this book in 2023. I didn't. I read this book in 2024. It was a part of my YA Rewind series, which ironically, it is one that I am going to pick back up on this channel. Well, hopefully you will see the first one of those videos this month. But it was a part of that series. It never made it up on the other channel because by the time it would have made it up, I had all the footage and everything. It was wild. By the time it would have made it up on the other channel, I was already kind of parting ways with the channel. So it didn't happen the way I anticipated happening. So I always forget I read Go Ask Alice last year. Book was horrible. It is literally, first of all, it says it's written by anonymous. We all know now that it was written by a woman who lied about all of this stuff, saying that, oh, well, this came from clients who anonymously submitted their journals. Lies. She wrote it. It's a whole crock of shit. And it's unfortunate. And it's a cautionary tale, but if you want cautionary tales, read Heroine by Mindy McGinnis. Read Crank by Ellen Hopkins, okay? If you're looking for books that deal with addiction, or even Thirsty by Jazz Hammonds at this point. Like, there are better written books that deal with substance abuse and addiction as opposed to reading this, because we have a girl who goes from smoking marijuana to doing hardcore drugs and becoming a prostitute. And I was like, wait, what? And her parents were just kind of like, I don't know, y'all. Like, our parents were trash, man. This book was so poorly written. The messaging behind it was not great. But, you know, this book came out in the 70s. And so you have to think to some extent that, hey, this is the material that they have. This is what was being classified as young adult. And so this is what they had to work with. But I think reading that book in 2024, and we're talking a significant amount of years later, it's like, this is what we were telling kids. How far have we come? Because this is not it. So I always I have now, I'm exploring more books that deal with addiction, so I can come up with a better recommendation list. And that's one that I definitely want to put out this year, because that was such a horrible reading experience that I do want kids to have recommendations with books with characters that are dealing with substance abuse, whether it's the main character or maybe the main character has a family member or a friend or somebody that is in close proximity to them that is dealing with issues like that. So I definitely won't be recommending that one, but it was such a horrible reading experience. It really was. Last one on this list, unfortunately, is an informational picture book, which is, as it states, provide you information. They're nonfiction. And that is Seawolves, Keepers of the Rainforest. I don't know what this book was. I was expecting to read this book and get some information about seawolves. That's not what we got. And I'm not sure what we got in that book. It was like written in verse, and which is fine. But it didn't work. And I don't feel like I learned much about how they contribute to the ecosystem and why humans should be worried about the impact that they're making on the environment. I don't know. It just didn't work. The illustrations were beautiful, but I did not like this book. Alright, y'all. So that is it. Those are my top 10 worst / disappointing reads 2024. Let me know in the comments down below what were the worst or most disappointing reads that you picked up. And if you're looking to see more content from me, make sure you click the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. If you're looking for ways to follow me on social media, support the channel, all those links will be down in the description box below. And as always, my friends, I will be back with another video soon. Bye.